Afternoon, chaps. How's it going? First things first, I'm going to attempt to spend 5 minutes without swearing because I had a chat with Chris Thrall, and he told me that apparently YouTube uses an algorithm that sort of checks the first couple of minutes. He said 5. I don't even know if this is a gen dit or if he just heard it on the grapevine. Apparently, if you're a foul-mouthed... I can't even think of an alternative without swearing. If you are a foul-mouthed little hooligan like me, and you swear excessively, apparently it doesn't show it to anybody. No, I don't know if that's an insane conspiracy theory, but what in tarnation? I shall attempt to at least be clear of diction for the first 5 minutes, and that is diction not in any way analogous to a penis or genitalia of any kind. So I wasn't going to go anywhere near this story. I wasn't. Sargon did it. Paz did it. Everyone was all over it weeks ago when it blew up. I was completely going to leave it alone. But they forced me to talk about it because of the endless stream of drivel that I've just read, published yesterday. Oh my word. The short version is, if you don't know, Cuties was, well, I'm sure you've all seen the trailer, right, by now. Don't worry, I am not going to be playing it in full. That's the one. It goes downhill rapidly from there, let me tell you. And the poster, the one on the right here, is the one that Netflix thought would be a fantastic idea to launch it with on the imagery while using the app on your telly. It speaks for itself, doesn't it? I mean, there is no sensible or reasonable reason why little kids should be getting sexualized like that. And this is the point that I want to make, because it's a reasonable one. Nobody would ever say that I wasn't open-minded. I mean, we all know what the Royal Marines are like. They have a reputation for public nudity, drinking too much, dogging, and general hijinks, which is what happens when you put enormous groups of athletic young men together with no women. Of course, it turns into... But, we used to joke about it. 32 weeks of training, 99% need not apply. That is just the world's most exclusive all-male drinking club when you're not on operations. So nobody would ever accuse me or any of my battle brothers of being prude or politically correct. If you want to go out on the piss in Ankara as a hairy-ass Marine wearing suspenders and your oppo is dressed as a sexy nurse, you crack on. I have no problem at all with any of it. And LGBT rights, seriously, I was pro-LGBT long before they added the bloody Q, and long before it became cool, i.e. being a normal agnostic English lad 15 years ago. I didn't care. If I was out having a beer in Exmouth and someone said to me, "Oh, if you got the gay bar, it's 50 pence a pint all night," I was in there. I would smoke the bartender to get in there. I never cared who I socialised or where I socialised, as long as the price was right. Maybe that's because I'm a tight northern monkey, or maybe it's because I'm socially liberal. I don't know, but it's a subject I've never ever cared about. I don't care at all what consenting adults do to each other, put in each other, whatever, and I never have done. And yet the last 4 or 5 years, they have forced me to basically side with conservative Muslims, right-wing Southern Baptists, you name it. I am now on their team. Because what these people don't understand is, and it's the same with Trump, right? It's not about liking Trump. Love him or loathe him. In politics, as we found in the UK with Brexit, when you ask binary questions, you get binary answers. And because we have 2- and 3-party systems, basically, at a push, basically it's a 2-party system. The choice is pick one. Pick one. It's not being idealist. It's not compromise. It's pick one. Which do you hate the least? And what they haven't learnt from Clinton versus Trump is that when you force people to pick a side, they will. Most people won't scrub the vote. Most people will go, who do I despise the least? And if you're going to start telling me that this shit, that's 5 minutes now. Yeah, of course it is, that'll do. This shit, or this shit,
1 for the party, 2 for the shawty, 3 when you shake your bum bum bum.
is the type of thing that young lasses should be watching. Or grown men, creepy grown men for that matter. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to disagree strongly. Same old thing. If you force me to pick whose side I see things, the Baptist preachers, who I don't agree with on much, or the insane, demonstrably insane, far, far left communist ideologues who have gone off the deep end since Trump won the election. I'm sorry, I'll pick the religious right-wing conservatives. I will. Because I've only got 2 choices. If you pick the third choice, that's no choice at all, because you don't get a voice. The real world is pragmatic, and pragmatists pick the least worst option. And seriously, Richard, you absolute hornblower, I'll pick the Baptists. Thanks all the same. Let's just read his story, and I'm going to explain it to you. I'll read it briefly with a few insulting quips, and then I'm going to explain it very briefly why. Why up is down and left is right now. So, the headline says, Cuties, the extraordinary Netflix debut that became the target of a right-wing campaign. Yeah, because this is the world we're living in. Apparently, if you're not pro-nonce, you're far right. If you're not pro 7-year-olds learning about fisting in primary school, you're a far right maniac. It's beyond a joke. I don't know what to do anymore. Yeah, if you don't think 7-year-olds should be daisy chaining round the fucking Wendy house, getting the dick pierced, and fingering each other's ring pieces instead of learning, reading the words from a tin, well, sorry, you're a far right fascist. Checkmate, bigot. Well, there they are in a washing machine. Probably the only clean fucking scene in the film. Ha ha, clean. Anyway. It says on Wednesday, Netflix released Cuties, the remarkable... Well, I'll stop you there, mate. First sentence. That's very objective, very subjective, so I'll stop you there. Unfortunately, the platform's misleading advertising was given rise to a scurrilous campaign against the film itself. Unfortunately. The promotional image showing young girls in bikini-like clothing and dancing in provocative ways matched with an inaccurate description. Square pegs through round holes, right? Square peg, round hole. Has been taken to suggest that the film celebrates children's sexualised behaviour. In fact, the subject of the film is the opposite. It dramatises the difficulties of growing up female in a sexualised and commercialised media culture. Fucking drivel. Absolute drivel. Wild, wild hypotheses from a wild, wild man. I doubt that the scandalmongers, who include some well-known figures of the far right, well, we're all far right now, apparently, boys and girls, right? Yeah, tepid lefties like Sargon of Akkad, like, he's definitely left of me, and I'm centrist, so what's he? Apparently, he's far right. Yeah, Boris Johnson, absolute fanny that he is, he's far right. We all are now, lads. You can be pro-open borders like Boris Johnson, but the mayor of the most liberal city in Europe for 10 years, and you're far right. So at the end of the day, if they call you far right, we all are now, aren't we? We all are. Bar none. Everybody's far right. If you're not Chairman Mao, you're far right. It's the story of a girl's outrage at, and defiance of, a patriarchal order. God. No wonder they all like it. If they can ram politics into it, it's like we've seen with movies and TV and everything else, like I was telling Chris all. This is why there's no quality or subjectivity anymore, because everything's political. They don't care if a TV show or a movie's entertaining. They care whether or not it supports the political opinions. And because this ridiculous, nonsense fairy tale can have a political angle, they feel as if they have to defend it. They have to defend it. It's fantastic, it's marvellous, it's wonderful, because we feel like it represents our political view of the world. Like, no one just watches a film anymore. I used to like Jackie Chan films when I was a kid. Now, they would like Jackie Chan if he did a speech about women's rights and LGBTQ++ fucking equality at the start. And if the villain was like a mustache-twirling straight white man, and in the middle of the film he got fucking bummed senseless by, 9 trans activists in a gay disco, like, it's just really, really weird. And it's only happened in the last few years. Like, we didn't care what the politics was when I was a young thruster. You just watched a film. Oh, look, Transporter, that looks good. Now they'll be like, oh, is it problematic? Is there enough black lesbian representation in the Transporter? I don't care. I just want to see a bloke stick the fucking head on someone and then do a commando roll in a fucking Lamborghini. Like, it's not hard, is it? It says the girl is an observant Muslim and she's socially isolated, and then she meets some friends who introduce her into the glory of twerking. I'm paraphrasing, but you don't want to read this drivel. And they say you have to be modest and obey your husbands. And she says, no, I'm going to shake my fucking moneymaker for 45-year-old pedo virgins to wank themselves senseless over. That is the film's synopsis. And he can come up with all this nonsense about how it's all about the identity, it's about the patriarchy, it's about women's liberation. No, it's not. And when he says it's not a movie of introspection and self-consideration, it's more of a story of the rule than of the exception, of what's unduly extraordinary about the effort to live an ordinary life. I mean, that is just a fucking word soup, that. Anyone who actually knows how to write in any way capably knows that you're supposed to try and make things simplistic and easy to read so the audience can digest them. And have you noticed everything these like postmodernist professors and fucking communist revolutionaries write is just a word soup? It's just gobbledygook because they don't want you to understand it. They want you to be a bit of an idiot, and they do think you are an idiot if you're working class. They are every inch the upper educated bourgeois communist elite at this point. They think if you're a bricklayer, you're an idiot. So they think if they just write out a word soup, they can convince you of anything. They think you'll just give up halfway through and go, fucking hell, he's dead clever, him. He definitely went to university. Fuck it, I'm sold. And what they don't realise is the general public are much cleverer than the fuckwits that run the planet can understand. And that's why they keep losing. And look, he even sneaks the word conniption in at the end. One of the fucking first times I've ever read it in a magazine. It's enough to give a right-winger a conniption. Richard, I'll tell you what's enough to give me a conniption, mate. Watching a grown man desperately make excuses for softcore porn for nonces. That's what'll give everyone a conniption. Not a right-winger. Not a right-winger. And again, that's my point, right? You know who else is always whinging about this type of stuff?
And I think the Green Party called us called women like me non-trans.
Posey Parker, recognise her? Someone else who I watch, who I don't agree with on much. I probably agree with her on about 50% of things. She's a militant feminist. But you know what? If I have to pick who I'd rather be stuck in an elevator with, a militant feminist or a full-blown nonce, I'm sorry, I'll pick the militant feminist. Same with the devout Muslims that were whinging about sex, all this creepy sex stuff they're showing kids in primary schools. I don't particularly agree with them on very much, but if you're going to make me pick a side, those guys, observant Muslims, or these freaks, well, I'm sorry, I've got my team picked. I've got my team picked, lads. I already know it. And it ain't yours, Richard, you fucking creepy weirdo. I'd love to see what he actually looks like. You knew he wouldn't have a real photo of him up, because he will be a fucking sweaty, crispy sex pest, that fucker. Jesus. And then all I wanted to make a point of was, it's all out the playbook, isn't it? Yuri Bezmenov. We've all talked about him because he was on Call of Duty recently, right? They're all losing their mind because he talked about his anti-communist stuff. Well, what does he tell people? He tells people that when your society's really fucking going down the pan, when they're moving through the phases to ensure the complete collapse of a stable capitalist democracy, they try to make you question everything you thought you knew, they will get you to question. So what better way to do that than to get us all signing off on 10-year-olds twerking and showing you the baps, and anyone who argues against it and says, hang on a sec, maybe this is a bit weird, they call you a fucking Nazi and a fascist. Like, it's transparently obvious what they're doing. Transparently obvious. So Richard Brody there is a fucking lunatic. I want to know in what world being against the overt sexualisation of children makes you far right. I want to know. Because I think, this is again, like I keep saying, this is why they keep losing. I honestly think 9 out of 10 people in the UK, probably higher, 9.5, 95% of people will have a problem. If they see that trailer with all the twerking and the arse shaking and the fucking lifting the tops up like they're in fucking, a strip club, I think 95% of people will have a problem with it. Labour, Lib Dem, Greens, UKIP, Brexit, Conservative, any of them, they'll have a problem with it. Most people will go, you know what, I'm not in any way against the LGBT community or anything like that, but there needs to be protection in place for children. And sexualising children and showing them twerking videos shouldn't be encouraged. Most people would think that. It's not controversial and it doesn't make you a hate preacher to say so. That's all I wanted to talk about. This one's been done to death, but I needed to make the point. Being anti-sexualisation of children does not make you far right in any sane fucking country. And if you think it does, you are an absolute madman. A madman. LGBT thing is fine because they're all consenting adults, but the minute you start trying to push that shit onto 8-year-olds, we're going to have a problem. And if that makes me a fucking far right fascist, or that makes me side with those people instead of the ones interested in fucking kids, well, I'm sorry chaps, I've picked my side and it ain't with the pedos. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys very soon.